As I'm walking, I'm currently being tracked. And what I just shared with you is something that no other town can claim except this town. But upcoming plans for 2024, the first part of it at least. So, '24 is here, and after a much needed break, this is my first official video of the year. Currently coming to you from Honesdale, Pennsylvania, a very historic town, and a town I made a video from a few years ago, which I'll talk more about later on in the video. I'm kicking off the new year with something brand new for the channel, and I have a lot of things I want to talk to you about. Not only what this new channel item is, but the history of this town, and those who stick around to the end of the video, what some of my upcoming plans are for the first part of 2024. With that being said, come along with me and let's get started. Well, those of you who decided to tune in, thank you for doing so. Hope you had a great holiday. And the first part of the new year so far has been going good for you. If it hasn't, hopefully it improves. And hello to you too. So those of you who do pay close attention to my videos may notice something different with this video, and that is the image quality. So I'm kicking off 2024 with something brand new, and that is a brand new camera. What I'm using today is one of the latest and greatest cameras on the market. It's known as the DJI Pocket 3. It's a handheld, motorized gimbal camera, and it's similar to things I reviewed in the past on my channel, but nothing that has the features that this one has. And there's one main feature and selling point that made me decide to get it. And what I'm going to do is throughout the video, I'm going to not only share the history of this town with you, I'm going to talk about and demonstrate some of the features of this town, and later on, I'm going to share what my upcoming plans are for the first part of 2024. There's an impressive looking church. And it came upon a nice little park. Figured we could take a walk through here, check it out, and I could talk a little bit more about this camera. And then we're going to head to the main district of Honesdale to not only see what the structures and buildings and businesses are like, but I do have quite a bit of information I'm going to share with you about how this town gets started, and one important thing that this town can claim that no other town in America can claim itself. Now, the one thing I can mention is that the audio you're listening to right now is coming right from the camera. This camera actually has 4 microphones, one in the front, one in the back, and 2 on the side. So it can pick up 360 audio, although right now I have it set for front and back. That way it's not picking up too much ambient noise. But as you can tell, I'm actually on face track, so it's tracking my face. I'm wearing a wireless mic. This is called the Mic 2. Let me actually take myself off auto tracking here. There we go. There we go. So right there, this came with the Creator Combo Kit. And let me get self-tracking back on. There we go. So now with face tracking enabled on selfie mode, which means the camera's facing me, no matter where I move the camera, it's going to track me. I mean, I don't have to twist the camera, I just hold it, and no matter what I do, it's going to track me the entire time. I could also offset myself. So right now it's like the rule of thirds. I'm off to one side, you can see what's going on over here. And even now, when I track, oh, I lost myself on tracking. There, so with tracking enabled, I can put myself in that rule of thirds, and no matter what I do, it's going to keep me in that frame, that designated frame of the image, which is nice. Not every image requires you to be dead center, so it's nice to be able to be out to one side or the other. So, getting back to the audio, you're hearing the onboard audio. I'm going to turn on the wireless mic, which I was using for my earlier clips, and you can hear the distinct difference between the onboard mic and the wireless mic 2, which is brand new for DJI. They just came out with this mic with this package of this camera, and it's actually now available for separate purchase. You could buy the standalone mic to link up to the DJI Pocket 3, DJI Osmo 4, or you could buy the combo kit, which comes with a receiver and either 1 or 2 transmitters. Right now, the DJI Mic 2 is linked up. You're hearing the audio right out of here. So, makes a world of difference. I do have the wind muff on it. And the one great thing I'm going to demonstrate as you get closer to the road where it's noisier is it has a noise reduction option where it basically digitally enhances the audio to remove the background sound and only keeps your voice as the prominent audio. It's a really useful feature if you're in a place that's playing, say, loud music, a noisy room, lots of traffic, and it's also windy and breezy out right now. So we're gonna see how it fares out up here in just a moment. Right now you're resting on top of the mailbox, and just to demonstrate it is still tracking me as I move. I am still in the thirds of the screen. And even if I go out of here and it loses my face, it will pick it back up. So I can't see my face right now, but as I come back, it's picking me right back up. So I'm gonna wait for a burst of traffic to come by. And I'm gonna switch to the noise reduction option through the mic. I can also stop and start recording through this mic as well, which is incredibly useful. It's like having a wireless remote control to start and stop the audio. So this is how it sounds right now. Normal audio, noise reduction off, and I'm gonna switch it right now. This is how it sounds with noise reduction on. The traffic, the ambient noise should be much more diminished, less significant noise, and primarily you should only be hearing my voice. Now it does alter the audio a little bit. You know, I don't think it sounds 100% truly natural of a voice coming through, but it does work when you need it to based on the environment or situation. But I do have to keep it on the normal audio setting, but it's great that you can control that right through the microphone itself. And if you need to eliminate the background noise, especially if I go places where there's music playing, I can switch that on really quick, not have to worry about getting hit with copyright music, and it'll just pick up my voice. It's a nice little park here. They have a playground. They have a little library here. You could borrow a book, donate a book. It's always nice seeing those for those who want to catch up on their literature. There are some plaques throughout here, some benches. It's obviously snow covered. We are in the midst of winter here. And I'm sure this is probably a bustling place here in the middle of the summer on a nice warm summer day, but just the occasional person walking around like me and getting some fresh air. I do have the crosswalks here, and hopefully they adhere to it. As I'm making my way towards the one end of town, we're going to cut over and walk down towards where we started. That's where most of the history and businesses are that I want to talk about. But just to add a bit more information about this camera, and this is strictly for those who maybe want to get this camera for themselves or may want to know what to expect to see on upcoming videos. Now, this is a camera that's not going to replace any of my cameras on my channel. I do have a multitude of cameras. This is going to be used in conjunction with them based on the situation, location, and environment. But one of the main selling features of this camera is the huge 1-inch sensor. And that's kind of unheard of for a camera this size. A 1-inch sensor is something you find in larger drones or DSLR or mirrorless cameras. Even my Nikon D5600 doesn't even have a 1-inch sensor. So a 1-inch sensor does a couple things. Number one, it allows for better image quality. It gives you that shallow depth of field when objects are close to it, so it blurs out the background. Most importantly, and the reason I got this camera is because of the incredible low light capabilities. My videos have always suffered in low light. 9 times out of 10 I'm shooting with my Osmo Action 3, which does fairly well in low light for an action camera, but it really raises the ISO, which introduces a lot of digital noise, and it also takes away from the stability when it's in low light. Stability on that camera struggles. So unless you're stationary, walking around, you do get some ghosting effects. And I'm going to do a comparison tonight when it gets dark between this camera and my Osmo Action 3. But the 1-inch sensor is the main selling point, and to have a camera this size that could do so well in low light, that's why I said it's one of the latest and greatest on the market. But when you add it to the tracking abilities, the wireless microphone, and some other features, it just is a hard to pass up item. and anyone who gets it, I know Matt from Matt G has one. He's done a few videos with it. I've been impressed with it. I know he has as well. And I will say it does take some getting used to, because unlike a traditional camera where you just kind of point the direction you want to shoot, this one you're working with the gimbal. So although it allows for super stable footage, if I want to get the camera on me, I either have to hit the one button on the corner of the screen or tap the joystick 3 times and it will spin it around to me, which I'll demonstrate right now. So there it is. And now that it turned around on me, it automatically engaged face track. So it is tracking me once again. So again, it's a bit different. I can't flip the camera around quick like I do with my other camera or even a phone. I do have to consciously press the button or tap the screen in the one corner which I have enabled. Right down here is the Lackawaxen River, which has some history in itself, which I'm going to be sharing with you. There is a measuring meter over there to show the depth of the water. It's fairly low right now, but come springtime when all the snow and ice melts, it will get fairly high. I don't know if they ever receive any flooding here, but I wouldn't rule it out. I also do see up on the mountain there is a star. I don't know the official name of that. I do know it has been referenced and talked about before, but it does light up at night. Maybe we'll see it later. I'll get a shot of it if it does illuminate, but we are essentially going to start here. There is the Hotel Wayne. Looks like a pretty historic building. And we're going to walk this direction all the way down. I'm probably going to flip-flop from side to side, but I'm going to stop somewhere though and go over some of the prominent history of this town, because like I said, it is very historic and there's some things that this town claims that no other town can claim. Actually, I have to say more than one. So I'm going to walk down a bit, show you some of the sites, some of the businesses, and then I will make a pit stop. I do have all the details in my phone and I'll be able to read them off to you, show some images, and let you know what this town is like, where it came from, how it started, and what you can expect if you come here for yourself. As I was mentioning, with this camera you get that shallow depth of field. With my Osmo Action 3 camera, that has an infinite or infinity as far as focus, which means everything's in focus past a certain point. If it's too close, it's out of focus, but everything from the focus point on is in focus. So you would see me and all the background in perfect focus. Where with this camera, if I get closer to it, not to scare you guys, but you can see I'm prominently in focus, the background blurs out. Even right here, the background is slightly out of focus. That's due to the 1-inch sensor and the low aperture that this camera has built in. It's a fixed aperture. And also another great thing, and I'll demonstrate it right now, is this has tap to focus. So right now, I can either get really close to this object and it'll automatically focus on it just like that, or I could stand here and tap to focus. Say I want to focus down the street. I'm gonna make it closer. Right now the street is in focus and the meters are a little bit out of focus. If I want to switch that, tap on the meter. Now the meter is in focus and the street's out of focus. So it'll stay like that. It'll stay locked in as long as what you're moving, I should say, as long as what the image block is doesn't move. So once I moved away from the meter here, the focus refocused because it lost that spot. So it works in certain situations. If you have the camera stationary, it's easy to use. If you are moving, you can go through the pro setting and switch from continuous focus to single focus, which means you can lock the focus on anything you want within the screen, and no matter where you move the camera, that focus will stay locked. It's great for some B-roll shots or some secondary footage or kind of revealing certain things, and I may show a clip of that demonstrating that now. But so many options in this camera, it's just kind of baffling to know that this can do so much in such a little compact device. So I am stopped here on the sidewalk right across from Turkey Hill, and I can move around if I want, which I probably will. I do have quite a bit of history I do want to share with you regarding this town. And in case you're wondering, it's a balmy 30 degrees out. It was supposed to be in the upper 30s with sun. The sun was out this morning. By the time I got here in late afternoon, the sun is now gone behind a thick cloud cover, and there's a slight breeze, and gloves are required for me. My hands are pretty cold. So the discovery of anthracite coal in the early 1800s created a need to transport it to New York City, which gave birth to the D&H, the Delaware and Hudson Canal, the American Railroad, and the borough of Honesdale. The town is named after Philip Hone, who was a former mayor of New York and president of the D&H Canal Company. As of 2020, the population here is around 4,400, and the town was originally called Dyeberry Forks in 1826 when the canal was created. It was incorporated as a borough of Honesdale on January 28, 1831. Now this town, as I mentioned, does hold claim to one very important thing. I did hint at it here when I said about the American Railroad. A little bit later on, when we get closer to the area, I will talk more about that. I do have some more history to share with you regarding the railroad history of this town as to its origins and to what it is today. Right now I'm going to track this van. As you can see, the camera is tracking it. I'm over here. It's doing it all on its own. Just by double tapping on the object on the screen, and it automatically starts self-tracking. I was just standing over there in front of Stevenson's Pharmacy. The tracking shot I did right there in front of Honesdale Greenhouse Flower Shop. And just to show you some of the businesses that you can find here as you walk down, I guess you would call it Main Street. I think this is Route 6. It is one way. The other direction is going up the other side by the park. But I crossed over here because there is a pretty awesome looking vintage or classic car. This is an old Dodge. Looks similar. Okay, scraping something. It looks similar to the vehicle that the old man drove in A Christmas Story. I don't know the exact model of that vehicle, but I do know it looks similar to this. And just sitting here along this building, the other shop. I figure it's worthy of giving it a moment in time in the video. If you guys know the details as far as year or exact model, feel free to share it. Or let me know if I'm in the realm or the ballpark of this being the vehicle that the old man drove from the Christmas Story. The other shop, Wayne Memorial Hospital Auxiliary, nonprofit thrift store established 1977. Building's obviously been repurposed. I don't know what its original use was, but regardless, I do have that car drawing attention. Oh, and if you want something for free, there is a wheeled, like a coat rack for free. Inquire within. I guess if it's still out here, it's still available. Looks like Christmas is still hanging on as Valentine's approaches, since we are here on January 22nd, near the end of January. Do have a combination of Christmas and some red lights. It's probably just Christmas, but I'm going to say it's introducing Valentine's Day as well, which is just around the corner, a few weeks away. And coming down is Roman's Famous Meats and Seafood Market, plus gourmet shop and seasonal barbecue pit. I bet you the smells here in the summertime are amazing. I got the big outdoor smoker there. Now I am waiting for nighttime. That's where I'm able to demonstrate the capabilities of this camera. I can also compare how my Osmo Action 3, which I did bring with me, does do in comparison to this. On top of that, it's been a while since I walked around a town in the dark, in low light, because frankly, it just never looked good. The last low light video I did was from the city of Pittsburgh, where I did the Christmas decorations around downtown. And now I have to get myself in the habit of not looking at the screen, but looking at the camera itself. That's a habit I used to have a hard time breaking when I first started doing videos. And now that the camera and the screen are in different positions compared to my other cameras, I had to remember not to look at myself, but to look at you guys. But as I was saying, that video, I wasn't really thrilled with how it came out with. A lot of the areas just looked really noisy and grainy and fuzzy. It just wasn't optimal quality. But this is gonna be a game changer, because when I do nighttime things such as dark rides, say at Knoebels or other parks, if I do nighttime events like Hollow Fun, going into the city, this camera is gonna allow for a lot more visual capabilities. So I'm really excited about that, because it's just gonna make my footage, which I feel has already been pretty good in 4K, as long as there's sufficient light, that much better when there's low lights. So I don't have to worry about if it's daytime, nighttime, cloudy, sunny, whatever it is. I'm gonna have a camera that will handle the situation no matter what is going on. It's old business here, Stanton Office Equipment. I will say the temperature is, or at least feels like it's dropping. The wind is picking up from time to time. I picked today to do this video because one, it's one of the warmest days that we've had in the past several weeks. It's been like Alaska temperatures with teens and low 20s and high winds for the last 2 weeks, and the rest of the week is calling for rain. The temperature is supposed to rise, but it's going to be rainy. So today is my only day that I'm able to do this video, and it's worth it. Oh, here we go. As I mentioned earlier about this town being called Dyeberry Forks, there's a building right there with that exact name, Dyeberry Forks. That is a restaurant and bar. Not sure if it's open, but it is named after that. And as we make our way down further, there are some more colorful facades and businesses here. Masters Tang Sodo Academy, Hartman's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, State Farm Insurance, and then it's like Northeast Firearms. And looking at this, it gives that small town feel and vibe like you would see in other small towns, where the buildings and the businesses are just lined up next to each other right down the main street. I do like the look of it. Gives it that kind of cozy, heartwarming feeling that a small town has to offer. Speaking of food, we do have Scarfalado's Townhouse Diner. And that's unfortunate. This is one of the places I plan on eating at, and it's closed. That's a bummer. I'm gonna have to find somewhere else. I was looking online, and the reviews are really good for this place, and it showed that it was open today. I have no idea why it's closed, but I was gonna dine here and let you know how the food was, and if it was good, I was gonna tell you to definitely stop here if you're in town, but unfortunately, it is closed. Currently behind the diner restaurant that I was gonna eat at, and as I was walking in front of it, wrapping up the clip that you just watched, there was a local just walking down the sidewalk, and I asked him, like, hey, why is the place closed? It shows that it's supposed to be open. He goes, they close early on Mondays, I guess at 2 o'clock. They're only open for lunch. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So I asked him if there's any recommendations that he could offer, and he said there's a place down the end of this main street called Twisted Rail. He's like, you're probably like that. So I'm gonna make my way down there, get some food, and then backtrack to here, because we're gonna be talking more rail history. Not only about the rail line in this town, but there's something on this mural back here, that's the only glimpse you get, that ties into more of the history that this town could claim, and the only town in America that could claim that history. So right now I'm gonna walk down to the Twisted Rail. Hopefully they're open, get something warm to eat, warm up a bit, and I will be returning here. And although I'm not gonna be filming myself eating, I will at least capture an image of the food I do get and let you know my honest thoughts if it's good or bad. Just came out of the Twisted Rail Tavern? Yeah, Tavern, Saloon. And I have to be honest, it exceeded my expectations. So before I go any further, I'm obviously filming on a different camera. Right now I'm using my Osmo Action 3, the camera I use 95% of the time. I wanted to just show this in comparison to the Pocket 3, specifically with lower light. I look pretty good as far as lighting conditions. I'm illuminated enough. Street lights are doing a pretty good job, as is the camera, but I will show you there are some faults when it comes to that. Back to the twisted rail. So that was a recommendation of just someone walking down the street, and upon going in, it's your typical bar, a lot of bar seating, some tables. Definitely had some looks towards me as I'm not a regular or a local, but had a couple friendly nods, and the bartender gave me a menu. I sat down at a table. Menu was small, not huge, just one-sided, maybe 20 items on it. Typical bar food like pretzels, wings, sandwiches. I opted to get a chicken Caesar wrap with grilled chicken, and it came with a side of fries. I asked for waffle fries, and they actually brought out regular fries. Well, the bartender realized the mistake. She's like, "Oh, I actually marked down waffle. Why did he give you these?" I said, "No, it's not a big deal. I'll eat them anyway." She goes, "No, I'm going to give you what you asked for." So she actually brought out a separate basket of waffle fries. I have to say the food was delicious. It was probably one of the best chicken Caesar wraps I've ever had, and the fries were nice and crunchy and salty. It was really good. I had the sandwich, fries, I got myself a beer and an ice water, and it only cost me like 12 bucks and change. So I recommend going there if you're looking for food, and I will be back there again whenever I'm visiting or passing through Honesdale. But Twisted Rail Tavern Saloon gets a thumbs up for me. Back to the camera now. So, as I was mentioning, this is how it would look normally if I was using this camera. And it's not total darkness, but it is, let's see what time it is. And there's music playing there. I'm not using my external mic, I'm using the onboard mic. It's 5:24 p.m. So sun is set. It did set around 5:07. So it's gonna get darker over the next 30 minutes or so, where it will be total darkness. It's kind of like blue hour right now, which is showing up on the camera. It's that hour when the sun sets until total darkness, and you get that blue ambience in the sky. But this camera is going to struggle the darker it gets. So if I'm just standing still like this, like I said, it looks pretty good. There's going to be some digital noise in the darker areas, but that's because the camera is raising the ISO, which is the sensitivity of the sensor, which is much smaller in this camera compared to the Pocket 3. It raises the ISO to achieve the proper exposure. But I'm going to demonstrate. If I start moving really fast or walk heavy-footed or even run, you're going to see that the image stabilization is not going to look that great. It's going to be shaky and wobbly and just not a great image. Even down a darker street here, if I do run, you're going to see probably some jitteriness, some ghosting, some shadowing. This camera just does not do good in really low light conditions. It does better than some cameras out there, and for an action camera it does fairly well. And this camera, I can just turn it right around to get it back on me. I do know the one that came out after this, the Action 4, which I do not own, is even better in low light, but still not as good as the Pocket 3. I'm going to be switching to that in just a moment, and you're going to see the before and after of how that camera does, because not only does that camera have the large sensor, it has a built-in feature called low light mode or low light setting. And what that does is it not only raises the ISO, but it has built-in processing which handles not only the image quality but also the digital noise. It reduces the noise, allows the ISO to go higher, allow for brighter conditions, and it doesn't ruin the image. So I will show you both of those. So this is how it looks on the Osmo Action 3. All right, now we're going to switch back to the DJI Pocket 3. And we are back on the DJI Pocket 3. Hopefully you can see the comparison between the Osmo Action 3 with the small sensor compared to this camera with the large sensor. I've never had a camera that did so well in low light. Now, right now I'm filming on one of my custom settings. You could do up to, I think, 5 custom settings, which means you could specify which adjustments or settings you want based on the image that you're looking to get. And then you can save that as a custom profile or custom setting. So right now I'm filming on 4K 30, and I have the ISO on auto, but limited to 3200. Typically it would go up to 6400. So it's at 4K 30, auto exposure, and the ISO is limited to go no higher than 3200. So the next image I'm going to show you is low light mode, where the difference is that the ISO can go much higher, over 10,000, but it also has that built-in digital noise remover and corrective imaging software built into it. And this is low light mode. I have to say, looking through the screen here, things look pretty awesome and bright. I'm so impressed with this camera. Even my smartphone does decent in low light. I know the brand new smartphones like the S22, S23, iPhone 15 I think is out. They do good in low light, but this still has a slight edge above it. And when you combine that with the wireless mic, the tracking features and everything else, it really beats having a smartphone. And look here's a wall mural, no lights on it at all. You won't even know it. The image is so bright, crisp and clear. Wow. It's my first time using it in a real world environment, other than a little model train display down in Coopersburg that I filmed with this camera. And I shared that video on my Facebook page, but this is my first real outing with it. What a difference. And I'm going to actually go right back now. I have my Action 3 with me, and I'm going to show you between the two the difference. So I'm filming right now with both the Pocket 3 and the Osmo Action 3. Now the only advantage that the Osmo Action 3 has right now is that it has a wider field of view. It is a wider image. But aside from that, the quality, the difference is unparalleled. It's literally night and day, no pun intended. Osmo Action 3, you could see the image, but it's grainy, it's fuzzy, it just does not look good. And I'm going to run right now and demonstrate the difference in stability in low light, where the Osmo Action 3 is going to suffer and struggle, Pocket 3 is not. So aside from some moving up and down on the Pocket 3, the image still looks crystal clear. Even putting it on me right now in selfie mode, there's no issues at all. You can see me really nice and clear. And this is what I love: low light capability, tracking ability, good, clear, wireless audio. I couldn't be happier. This is like a terrific addition to the channel. Hopefully you guys appreciate the addition as well, because quality is just going up higher and higher as new technology does come out. But let's get back to where we left off and continue on with our history of Honesdale. As we're making our way back down, I do want to talk a bit about my break that I took, my extended break from YouTube. Now, I started doing YouTube full-time in 2018, so excuse me, this is my 6th year of doing YouTube as my primary source of income. And since that time, I haven't taken any significant breaks. I did take off a few days here, take off a week there, and I was able to do so because I've always filmed a backlog of videos. So if I film a backlog of videos, I can keep the videos coming out steady, even if I do take a few days off for even a week. There's no breaks in the action, and the channel does remain active. The only significant break I've had between 2018 and now is just over 2 years ago, when I did have COVID, when I was hospitalized and had to recover at home. I really was not really having a break, I was recovering and trying to get back to my normal self. So that was the only lengthy break I've had, but like I said, it wasn't an enjoyable break. It was me struggling to get past COVID, and thankfully I have, and I'm still here. But this break is different because I didn't film any backlog of videos. The last videos you saw was Pittsburgh and the model train from the Carnegie Science Center, which was actually just a snippet of some footage from a previous video from 2021. So this is my very first video I'm filming for 2024, and I took my break starting around Christmas time, and I didn't know how long my break was going to be. I knew I wanted to take a longer break than I have. And this is Stourbridge Bistro. Boy, a lot of places are closed here Monday nights. I knew I wanted to take an extended break, but I didn't know for how long. My plan was to basically take a break and come back when I feel like it. And that was going to be anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, even longer. I had no specified time or plan to come back, just when I felt it was right. But while I was on my break, I basically unwound, checked out, and detached myself from the YouTube world. So not only did I not have any videos to edit, I didn't upload anything, and I didn't have to really check on my channel much. Maybe twice a week I would check comments, but other than that, I just watched videos, that I would watch from subscribers that I do follow, but I didn't stay active on my channel and didn't have to worry about what am I doing next, what do I have to take care of. I basically did everything that I wanted to do as far as spending more time with family, spending time with some friends, getting some projects done around the house, and some days even just doing nothing but being lazy. And I feel I deserve that, I just popped in a movie or watched a docu-series or something and just really enjoyed myself. And I have to say, I did miss making videos for the first probably week or two because it's something I'm so used to doing. But after that, I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to rush to get back. I'm really enjoying this break and I want to get the most out of it. So my break did consist for just about a month. I started just before Christmas. It's now January 22nd as my return, and it was much needed. Anyone that's been doing something for a lengthy amount of time definitely deserves a break. And although like I said, I did have a week off here, a few days there, I was still having to do uploads, still checking comments, so I wasn't really detached from my channel. This time I was, and it just felt great. So I will be making a point to make a dedicated break like this when needed, whether it be once a year, once every other year, twice a year. Whenever I feel it, I'm going to take it. And I come back feeling refreshed, recharged, a little bit rusty, but I come back feeling mentally clear. And I was able to really enjoy my time off. Still walking down, you can see a lot of the storefronts are illuminated here. Some of these we checked out earlier from across the street when it was still daylight. This is the Dojo Academy plumbing store. Here we are, back where we left off prior to going to get some dinner. Some training related stuff here. Not a red caboose, but a yellow one. And a type of coach car right there. The reason I stopped over here is because we do have some more history to talk about, not only with the town, but the railroad itself. As I'm about to start, it's starting to snow. It's turning into a winter wonderland. So Honesdale is home to the Stourbridge line. That's why this caboose is here. This is part of the Stourbridge Line Railroad, which offers passenger excursions. So Honesdale is home to the Stourbridge Line, which is a short line railroad that operates on 25 miles of the former Erie Railroad, specializing in both freight service and passenger excursions. In 1960, the Erie merged with the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad to form the Erie-Lackawanna Railroad. In later years, after changing hands numerous times, the railroad line was operated by Robey, R-O-B-E-Y, Railroad, and contracted to Morristown and Erie Railroad. Service ended in 2011, and in May 8th, 2015, service resumed on the now Stourbridge line as the Delaware, Lackawaxen, and Stourbridge Railroad. Lackawaxen, you may remember, is that river that we checked out earlier when we were near that bridge. Honesdale is also the birthplace of the American Railroad and is home to the first commercial steam locomotive to run on rails in the United States. which is called the Stourbridge Lion. And it's right there on that mural. Stourbridge Lion is different from Stourbridge Line. So lion like lions, tigers, and bears, oh my. The trial run took place on August 8th, 1829, and crowds of people came out to witness the historic event, with many convinced it would fail its test run. People thought that either the locomotive would just blow up or that it would break down, but they just thought it wouldn't be successful. They thought it would fail somehow or some way. But the run itself was indeed successful, and it started a new era in commercial transportation. It operated on a 3-mile section of wooden track, which crossed the Lackawaxen River on a 30-foot high trestle, and was owned by the Delaware and Hudson Canal Company, which deemed it to be too heavy for continued use. After the trial run, the locomotive was never used again. Now in 1890, the Smithsonian Institute acquired the remains of the Stourbridge Lion, but the B&O Railroad Museum currently has the main boiler on loan, which I believe is on display for visitors. But a full-scale replica of the lion is on display here at the Wayne County Historical Society Museum, and that replica was built in 1933 using the original blueprints from the D&H Canal Company. So that's why I said numerous times that this town, Honesdale, is the only town in America that could claim that the American Railroad started here. So although that Stourbridge Lion only ran one time for that trial run, which was successful, you can see parts of it at the B&O Museum, but you can see a full-size exact replica, which is just down the road here at the Wayne County Historical Museum. It's sitting inside of it. I was able to get a picture or two of it, and they have some placards on the outside. It wasn't open today, but you can check their hours on the website if you did want to come and see it for yourself. It doesn't look like your traditional steam locomotive, which you would see pulling passenger excursions, but it is a primitive design, but it did operate on wooden rails and went 3 miles. So that's pretty awesome to say that this town not only had a big role in the Delaware and Hudson Canal, but the railroad itself that we know today started here with the very first steam locomotive. As you can see, it is snowing lightly. And here's another look at that giant mural signifying the Stourbridge Lion trial run from 1829. And down below that, they do have some old advertisements for Art Wall Jr. Masters Tournament from 1959. Highlights for children, founded in 1946. The Wayne County Fair, which I have not visited yet. I may add that to my list for 2024. Looks like that it was established 1862. And the Wayne County Glass Industry beginning in 1807. And Winter Wonderland, lyrics by Richard Smith, 1934. And as we could see, it is indeed a winter wonderland. And just to show you a little bit more of this car here, it's a parlor car. 2015 is the number. It says parlor reserved seats. So this was a higher end car. No longer in service, I don't believe. But it is sitting here. And although it's a static display, I'm sure it has some stories to tell. Now the one downfall of this camera is that it's not waterproof or even water resistant. Being for the fact that it has a 3-axis motorized gimbal, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that can't be sealed up. So light snow like this, not a big deal. If it started raining, obviously I wouldn't be able to use it. You're risking damaging the camera. So this definitely can't be used in all weather conditions like my Osmo Action 3 can. So you do need to plan accordingly when using a camera like this. Even with other gimbals, typically they can't get wet because there's moving parts, and that is just one of the drawbacks from having that stability. Now I do know this video has been all over the place. Traditionally, that is a loud truck. Traditionally, my videos are not typically like this. Although I have done some small town tours and showed you different parts of Pennsylvania, I still continue to do so, but It's usually not so scattered like it is with this video. And the reason why it is because I had just so much I wanted to cover with you in a relatively short amount of time. Being for the fact that I took an extended break, obviously I wanted to bring you up to speed on a lot of things, not only talking and demonstrating the features of the camera, but the history of the town, the history of the railroad, the Stourbridge line itself, showing you the buildings and the different businesses that are here. But I also want to talk to you about what I did on my break, and coming up soon, what my upcoming future plans are for the first part of 2024. So, like I said, if you're joining me for the first time, most of my videos are not scattered like this and kind of all over the place, but it's unusual circumstances where so much is happening that I want to cover all in one video. Looking back behind me here, that building does resemble like a castle of sorts. We're gonna actually cross the railroad tracks here. They do have a little crossing area. So we're gonna go down the steps, look both ways. It's all clear, we can continue. One thing I can tell you is that as of today, this line does not continue much further in that direction. From what I saw on Google Maps, it does terminate near the Lackawaxen River. Now, I don't know if this is the same section of area where the Stourbridge line operated. I couldn't find out the exact location where that trial run took place. All I know is that it did cross the river. But I believe there are old remnants of the river, I should say near the river, from where this line used to cross over part of a bridge or a tunnel there, I believe, or a bridge culvert. Something I'll look into in the future under warmer conditions, but this line does not continue operational in that direction, only in this direction. And the other thing I want to point out, I made mention of it earlier in the videos, that I have been here once before to make a video. This section of line I've actually ridden on, but not on a train. I was actually invited here back June of 2020, almost 4 years ago, to ride with a speeder group. And there was dozens of railroad speeders lined up here, and we rode, I don't know how many miles it was, but we went for a good distance. I actually got to ride in an enclosed and an open air speeder. And that video not only did really well view-wise, it was extremely popular with people wanting to find out how to do it themselves, but it's one of the most exciting and fun experiences I've ever had related to trains and railroading. So this is the same line. They did it during COVID period when the Stourbridge line was not operating their passenger excursions. But we did pass their yard, which is down that way a ways, where they do have some nice pieces of equipment, some vintage diesel locomotives and some other things, which you can see in my speeder ride video. So I will link that down below in the description. But the reason we're crossing the tracks and coming over here is because the visitors area is where you would basically be boarding the Stourbridge line passenger excursion railroad. And there's also a mine cart here, which I'd never seen before. So I wanted to take a look at that as well. As I peer through the fence here, I'm going to adjust it. States the Delaware and Hudson Gravity Railroad coal wagon. This coal wagon is a full-size replica of the wagon used to the D&H Gravity Railroad to transport anthracite coal from Carbondale to Honesdale from 1828 until 1898. The loaded wagons travel a distance of 15.5 miles. Empty wagons travel a distance of 21 miles returning to Carbondale. The wagons were linked together in groups of 3 to 5, and they were hooked or unhooked to the cables by men called trippers. The wagons were 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, and stood 8 feet high. They each carried between 2 to 3 tons of coal. After the gravity and canal closed, 4,012 wagons were destroyed by fire to reclaim the metal fittings in 1899 and 605 wagons in 1900. Not one remained. During the early years, up to 100,000 tons of coal was moved over the mountain each year. In later years, over 1 million tons were transported annually. So there's some more history of the town and the coal. And sad to know that none of it remains today. But they do have a full-size replica, and that is a really large coal car. It's almost like a miniature gondola car for a railroad. But it's got the 2 sets of trucks for the wheels. It's got the open spoke wheels. The other thing I'm noticing too is that this is riding on wooden rails with metal slats on top of it, very similar to a roller coaster. And I do know they do have 2 sets of tracks they ran on, a loaded and an unloaded line. And I know that because I'm actually looking into some history that I'm doing covering the D&H Gravity Railroad, which you will learn a lot more about in an upcoming video in the warmer months. But I'm already starting to do my research and to make sure I have the facts covered talking about the Gravity Railroad, because there's not one, but 2 locations I'm going to be filming this year. Both locations I'm going to be returning to, I did film in 2023. There were 2 separate videos, and one I didn't even realize was related to the Gravity Railroad. The other one I had an idea. I'm returning to both of them to explore them in more detail and to share the history I learned about the Gravity Railroad. And the snow has really picked up here. And this visitor center is still decorated for Christmas. And right here is the loading platform for the passenger excursions. This is basically like a deck that goes right out to the rails. It's the same height as the floor of the passenger car, so people could load and unload safely. I'm assuming it's wheelchair accessible as well. But this is the loading platform for when you do book your excursions on the Stourbridge line. There's actually 2 of them. There's one down there as well. And I'm actually going to give you a moment of silence. I'm going to just slowly pan around and let you take in the sights and sounds here in this quiet section of Honesdale. I do want to say though, I have never ridden on the Stourbridge line for their excursion run, but I'm thinking I'm going to change that. I think this year sometime I'm going to get myself a ticket, take a ride, and I'm going to show you something in just a second. Take a ride in that and hopefully document that trip for you. That way if you are ever in Honesdale and want to do the train ride, you'll know what to expect. I stopped here because I came across the Dragon's Den Games and Hobbies. I don't want to be too intrusive because there is people inside, but they do have some little dioramas which are highly detailed, and it looks like they're doing some gaming in there, so I don't want to disturb them, but I thought these look pretty realistic. It reminds me of a miniature train display. Local hardware store where they actually were playing some music earlier. Seems like a nice store. Not your traditional big box store like Home Depot or Lowe's. And on the opposite side is Joey Boba Bubble Tea Joint. And tonight they're serving mac and cheese from 3 to 7. And some other things as well. If you like bubble tea, which I know Jill and Lil definitely do, they would definitely want to stop there. And here's host company number 1. Got a nice looking fire truck on the inside there. Only a 1-bay garage. And I think there's only 1 fire engine inside here. Some more decorations. This one is Laurel's Hometown Cafe. So as you could already tell, there's a lot of different food options. Whether you want something to drink, to eat. If you want to get your hair cut, there's a barber shop. There's actually 2 of them. I did come across another one earlier. Oh yeah, directly across the street, there's another barber shop, which is just a few doors up from the Twisted Rail Tavern. So that's where it is right there. So if you're coming down 6 East, which I'm calling Main Street or Main Road, but it's 6 East. It's one of the last buildings on the left-hand side here. Now there are other things to see here in Honesdale, but I wasn't able to cover it all today. Now I did share the photo montage, which you just saw, and in that photo montage there was a couple photos where I had captions. One of the locations is a waterfall about a mile away from here, which was really nice. It was, you know, partially frozen, but still flowing pretty good. Couldn't get real close to it, but close enough to get some photos. I was able to see that and just get a couple quick photos. And also, as I mentioned, where the rail line terminates, there's a old bridge there of sorts. So I will be back in the future, at the very least, to do the train ride, but hopefully to check out more of these little hidden gems that are hiding in these small towns. Now, Honesdale, like I said, I've been here before, but I actually never knew how much history was tied to this town. When I was going to do this video, which is my first video of 2024, my return, I was actually going to go to Jim Thorpe. It's a town I love, a lot to see, a lot of history there too, but I've done quite a few videos there. So I wanted to change it up, do something different. So when I did my video here, the railroad speeders, you only saw a real small part of the town. Most of it was featured on the rails in some more desolate, remote areas. So me coming here today to do this, I did some research, was able to share all that information with you, and I was really surprised by how much history this town does hold, and that this town claims to be the birthplace of the American Railroad, with the first steam locomotive operating here. So it is just remarkable how much these little small towns have to offer when you actually dig into it. Yes, diesel power. When you actually dig into it and find out what took place, you know, with the canal, the former name, the dates. And a lot of towns are like this. Some towns have no history at all, or I should say, not really significant history. Other ones like this have more than you can actually imagine. So it never hurts to do some research. I'm not a historian, I'm not a skilled researcher, but I do enough to at least get myself an idea of what I'm going to be facing, what I'm going to be filming, and hopefully something to share with you. And between the both of us, we can educate ourselves. I have you guys sitting on top of a mailbox right now, and it is really getting cold. The wind is a bit steadier now. The sun's completely set. It's probably in the upper 20s. This is a northeasterly town, so it does get colder than the valley. But upcoming plans for 2024, the first part of it at least. So I do have a fairly lengthy list of wintertime locations that I want to film. And the list is too big for me to film everything in one season. I know I'm not going to get through everything, so the things I don't get through this wintertime, horsepower. I know RJ would have a funny comment for that. Whatever I don't get through this winter will be pushed off until next winter. But I have a handful of brand new locations I'm going to be filming for the very first time, places you've never seen before, and some of them actually have some really awesome findings, one of which I found accidentally at the end of summer, riding my e-bike on a trail, stumbled upon this area, and not only did I find some great findings, but the history is even more intriguing. So that's going to be coming up. And aside from all that, there's going to be one or two abandoned places mixed in, one or two Google Finds adventures mixed in, and there's going to be a handful of locations that you've seen before on my channel, but we're going to be returning to either see it in a different way or to do an update and a revisit. So between now and say April, that's what you could expect. From there on out, I will update you closer to that time, but I do have a busy couple of months. We're less than 3 months away from like springtime, from when the foliage starts growing back in. So me taking this extended break did close that window down a bit. I can't film as much as I wanted to for the winter, but I do have dedicated videos I plan on filming. As long as the weather cooperates accordingly, I should be able to get a good number of them done, but they won't all get done. It's just the way it goes. Thanks so much again for hanging out with me today. I'm ready to get warm, and hopefully you're ready for an exciting 2024 here on my channel, JPVideos. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. And speaking of food, we do have scarfaltos or scarfalos. Wait, scarfalatos. Townhouse. Boy, that was a tongue twister. Take 3 on my outro.